Hello, this is Bernie Krzys. I'm the publisher of Trenchless Technology magazine. And we are here today to honor this year's Trenchless Technology Person of the Year. That person is Lester Bradshaw, who I've known for many years. He is a wonderful personality, and he really has done marvelous things in the trenchless industry, specifically regarding microtunneling. Lester and I are going to be talking about his family background, his education, some earlier job experiences he's had in the industry as well as outside the industry, and all the things he has done to help pay forward within the industry to make the microtunneling segment of our marketplace grow stronger. So all these reasons are why we, this year, have chosen Lester Bradshaw as this year's Trenchless Technology Person of the Year. I'm here with this year's Trenchless Technology Person of the Year, Lester Bradshaw. We're going to have a dialogue between us to talk about his background and so forth, as to how he got in this marketplace. But maybe, Les, you can start out by talking about your family and what brought you into this position in life.
Well, thank you very much, Bernie. As I like to tell people, I'm from Kentucky, and we talk about down there where your people are from. And turns out that my father left the farm back in the 50s and went to work in the Chicago subway and with his great uncle, and that was his great uncle, Lonzie Stevens, was the first tunneler in the family, and we've been in tunneling ever since for over 70 years. I'm just following in their footsteps.
Now you have really a tremendous educational background, going back to your time at Georgia Tech and so forth. So why don't you tell us about your education and what you think about education going forward?
You asked me about my education, and I speak of my own as far as going to Georgia Tech for a bachelor's and master's degree in civil engineering and to Harvard Business School for a master's degree, but it really goes back to my grandparents and my grandmother, who didn't get her bachelor's degree till she was 54 years old through correspondence courses so that she could continue to teach school down in Kentucky. I'm real proud of the fact that even though I'm the only college graduate in my immediate family, the wonderful thing is 8 out of my parents' grandchildren are all college graduates, and 2 of them are PhDs. So we've, as a family, really come along and prioritized our educations, and we're very proud of that.
Now, with your background in civil engineering and geotech, et cetera, interestingly, though, you didn't go into that area to begin with because you went on to Harvard Business School and you took a job outside of the tunneling market.
Yeah, during the time frame when I graduated from college in 1980, the business market was very tough. People remember back, interest rates were 16% for a mortgage. The construction industry was way down. The family firm fell on some difficult times. And I chose to go into the oil business. I worked for Standard Oil of Indiana for a year in their Chicago headquarters and thought I'd try to do something different than tunneling. So I did that for a year, and when they decided they wouldn't send me to the oil fields, I decided to go back and help the family company, so I went back into tunneling.
Now, when you went back into the family business, what was the status of tunneling? I mean, nowhere were we into such things as microtunneling nowadays or mechanized tunneling.
In 1980, the tunneling industry was in full blossom for mechanized tunneling, but with manned. I call it analog tunneling. Men rode in machines, literally wheels that would turn and grind the dirt up and load it out in muck cars. My family, though, had missed that time frame as far as investing in that technology as a family business. So we had to wait a while. My father was a hand miner. He was a superb hand miner and did all sorts, compressed air tunneling, everything you could imagine, but he did it all by hand, and he had a lot of people that did it by hand that worked for him that were really great. But from there, the tunneling machines were starting to take over. You couldn't be John Henry anymore. You couldn't be a hand miner and survive. And over the next 30 years, we have mechanized our operations. It just took a little longer than some of the other companies, but we've mastered all of them now.
And I know you're very big into microtunneling. So when was your first microtunneling project, and how does that compare to the way it is nowadays?
Our first microtunneling project was in 1991. It was 5 years after the very first one in 1986 in the U.S. It was a very small little project, 30-inch diameter, a couple 100-foot long. And there was no sophistication to it. We rented the equipment, and like most contractors at the time, we were learning as we go. Frankly, in tunneling, you learn by doing. There are no real schools for it. There's developed over the last 30 years some places that help to try to understand the basics, but you still pretty much learn by doing, and that's what we were. We were out there using a a large trash container for a slurry separation system. I mean, it was rudimentary to say the least, but it was a successful project going underneath a tributary to the Chesapeake Bay where the ground was just terrible. It was called weight of hammer. Think of quicksand. If you stood on it, you'd sink out of sight. But this machine was able to bore right through it safely and get to the other side to install a critical sewer line only a few hundred feet from the treatment plant. It had to be online, it had to be on grade. If it wasn't, it wouldn't have functioned properly for the treatment plant.
It's become such a difficult thing for some people to imagine a microtunneling project so precise, online, on grade, et cetera, and some of the distance you're achieving nowadays. So what has been one of your more challenging microtunneling projects in all these years?
The most challenging projects we've had have been multiple ones, honestly. I think that we pushed the limits of our envelope a few years ago in Washington, D.C., where we did the longest drive of microtunneling with steel casing, 1,860 feet through rock. The issue there is the rock. There's been a lot of drives longer than 1,860 feet in the U.S., but never before in rock, granitic rock. Granitic rock, particularly rock that's layered and whatnot, is incredibly difficult to mine through, as it can destroy the cutting tools on the front of your machine. And you have to service those tools through an 18-inch porthole through the center of the machine to get out to the front of this 60-inch machine. So that was the challenge, as to how to stage that. How do you service something that far up into the ground and you're going out into that cutting wheel regularly? That's not normal on soft ground drives, where you can sometimes you launch it and never look at the front of the machine, never go into the machine until it comes out the other side, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 feet away. So we accomplished that project, and we were nominated and awarded the runner-up project of the year. I think that was one of the years where someone did a 6,000-foot direct pipe. So we didn't have the distance, I guess, to make the grade for that. But we had a successful drive, which, to my knowledge, is the longest ever in rock.
And then one of the innovations in microtunneling nowadays is curved microtunneling, which I know is done a lot of times outside the U.S., but have you done many curved microtunnels?
We've done 4 curved microtunnels to date. We've done 3 of those in rock. I count one of them as 2 curves because it was an S-curve. We literally turned it to the left and turned it back to the right. So that was 2 curves in one. The curve we just finished in Charlotte, North Carolina, that was 800-foot microtunnel, 48-inch concrete pipe with a curve in it. And we see that we're going to be doing another one there. They're becoming industry standard. Engineers are accepting them. In this instance, we're on a design-build job, so we designed it. In fact, I think we've designed all the curves that we've done to date. We haven't seen too many projects with design curves, but you're going to see more and more of that, and greater distances. It helps eliminate manholes. It helps to stay within right-of-ways, which makes right-of-way access and or purchase by the owners less costly. So it all works very well with the overall system, and it is a concept that's been in Europe a long time, and it's finally come into the States, and we're there for it.
Now, there's a lot of difficulty in running a business, and let alone that aspect of your professional life, you've contributed a lot in such organizations as ASCE, the Moles Organization, the North American Microtunneling Association, NUCA, the National Utility Contractors Association. What prompted you to do all of that, considering how difficult it is to run a business in itself?
Well, I believe that you have to give back. I think I've got quite an education, and I felt obligated to use it. Meaning, if I can convince other people of what we need to do as an industry, organize other people to help provide industry standards. It's something that I started back 40 years ago when I first got into the business to become part of that. We became NUCA members, became active on the Trenchless Technology Committee. We became, I became a member to a number of different organizations. And that's evolved over time with your experience. How you transfer that experience, when your realization that it's learning on the job, the next generation, how do they learn? What are all the lessons that I've learned that maybe I can pass on? And you might think, why would you pass those on to your competitors or something? But I don't quite see it that way. There's some lessons that are universal that help the market grow, help the method grow and be used more. And that provides more opportunity for everybody. And as long as my organization stays competitive, we'll get our share. So it's growing the market, it's growing the application, and it's passing on to the next generation. Frankly, once you're good at something and you get to working at a career or as a business owner and a successful one, they call it giving back, but I see it more as looking to the industry as something beyond yourself, that you're giving back to something that's bigger than what your accomplishments or your contributions have been, but you want to see the whole industry do better. And it's rewarding. We knock down, drag out. We contractors fight each other. We bid against each other. We compete against each other day in and day out. It's dog eat dog to a lot of ways. I'm big on saying no. There are things that we can sit down and we can talk about and we can get together and we can be regular people. You can compete, but you don't have to hate everybody. You don't have to dislike them. And you can actually work with them, respect them, understand them, and learn a lot more about them as you get together to push standards forwards, to argue against engineers or owners who have the wrong expectations about what can be done. When you get a group of guys together, like the North American Microtunnelers Association, our voice has a lot to say about our industry. And that came about by working with Tim Koss and a few people to put together an organization. I was fortunate enough to be the first chairman for 3 years to help lead it. And we've made a substantial impact, I believe, in the standards and in the industry itself by doing just that. And it's being continued on. And I'm now the treasurer, but I still stay involved because I think it's critical to the ongoing business and the industry. Because like I say, you learn it on the job, and helping engineers and owners to understand the business is critical to its growth.
You've been a wonderful supporter of the Microtunneling short course over 20 plus years. And so much is going on in the marketplace because of such courses as the Microtunneling short course. But what do you see in the future here? It seems like, some people are saying, I don't know, microtunneling versus direct pipe versus directional drilling. What are your thoughts?
We're mechanizing the industry, and there is a lot of different ways to skin a cat. One Harvard Business School professor I had used to say that Black & Decker doesn't sell a drill, they sell the expectation of a hole. Who cares how you get the hole? When it comes to mechanized tunneling, in my day it was hand mining. The TBMs, tunnel boring machines, and shields were around, but they were really coming into their use and getting more and more powerful and bigger. Today, though, we have directional drilling, we have pipe ramming, we have so many different ways to provide the hole. Microtunneling is one way. It's happened to be something that I like to do and I feel good at and I understand. But there are a number of different technologies. What that will do is increase trenchless and decrease the amount of trenching. Why? Because if it's cheaper, it's less disruptive, and the net result is the client and the environment and the society are better off for it. Then that's what's going to happen. And it doesn't mean, I don't feel threatened by HDD. It's a different application. It's for pressure pipe of a certain kind. It has its strengths and its weaknesses, just like microtunneling has, just like pipe ramming has, just like auger boring has, pilot tube. There are any number of innovative ways. But what you're seeing is the creativity of the American economy and capitalist system. And as long as we allow that to flourish, you're going to see innumerable ways of doing things. And some will take over and grow, and some won't. But I see microtunneling as having a permanent place. I've invested heavily in it, and we're expanding the frontiers of what you can do with the equipment, even to this day, the type of ground conditions and the types of configurations and the diameters. All of that is expanding and being used throughout the U.S., which is truly satisfying. I'm not an international contractor. I believe the American dream is right here in America. And I've stayed here pretty much. My father and brother like to go. They tried Puerto Rico for a while, but now we're here. We're a U.S., and we believe this industry is just now starting to take off in even a bigger way than ever. And we look forward to participating in it.
Boy, you've so much authenticated, whatever words you want to say, why Lester Bradshaw Construction is this year's Trenchless Technology Person of the Year. Les, it's been a great pleasure to be here with you. And boy, I feel so honored with all of this happening about us, microtunneling and trenchless technology. Do you have any final comments, Les?
Bernie, I want to thank you and the staff and the folks at Trenchless Technology Magazine and Benjamin Media. You surprised the bejesus out of me when I got the phone call saying this. I never expected such an honor. I never worked toward anything like this. And my family and being Kentucky farm folk, you're used to working every day. You don't expect somebody to walk in and recognize anything you do, honestly. My grandparents worked their entire lives away, and I don't know if anybody ever noticed what they did. But this is humbling and unexpected and greatly appreciated. And I look forward in participating in, if I get an opportunity, there's many of other deserving people out there that have spent, arguably for a lot of people, a lifetime at doing this and are great industry proponents. And I look forward to being part of that as well. And I want to thank you again. This is a great honor.
Well, you're welcome, Les, but really, thank you. The industry thanks you, and it's so wonderful to be here with Les Bradshaw today. Thank you all.